Poor mother takes her daughter to celebrate her birthday with only $10. But a young billionaire sees everything and does something unexpected. Maya counted the coins for the fourth time, spreading them across the kitchen table. $10.20. It was all that was left until the end of the week, but today couldn't be an ordinary day. Daisy was turning 5. "Di, Mommy, can we go now?" The little girl appeared at the bedroom doorway, her brown hair a bit messy and her eyes shining with anticipation. She was wearing her favorite dress, the blue one with small flowers that Maya had bought at the thrift store last month. "Of course, sweetie." Maya tucked the coins into her jeans pocket and tried to hide her worry. "Let's go celebrate your birthday." Daisy started jumping. "Will there be cake, Mommy?" "There will be something delicious, yes." Maya tied her daughter's hair with a colorful elastic band. "It's going to be special, you'll see." The Sweet Corner Bakery was 2 blocks from their home. Maya had passed by there yesterday during her break from her cleaning job and saw the cupcakes in the window, $2.50 each. It fit into the tight budget, and Daisy loved colorful frosting. The bell on the door chimed as they entered. The smell of fresh bread and cinnamon filled the air. Daisy ran to the glass display case, pressing her face against the cold surface. "Wow, Mommy, look at all the sweets." Maya walked over, her eyes already drawn to the cupcake section at the bottom of the display. There were some with blue frosting, others with colorful sprinkles, one with a little cherry on top. Perfect for a simple 5-year-old's party. "Hey, which one do you want, Princess?" "There's this blue one here, very pretty." Maya pointed to a small cupcake, trying to sound excited. But Daisy wasn't looking where her mother was pointing. Her eyes were fixed on something much bigger, much more elaborate. In the center of the display, under a clear glass dome, was a round cake covered in soft pink frosting. Small sugar roses decorated the edges in darker shades of pink, and on top, golden cursive letters said, "Happy Birthday." It was the kind of cake that appeared in movie parties, perfect and enchanting. Daisy's eyes widened. She pressed both hands against the glass. "I want the pink cake, Mommy." Her voice came out loud, full of excitement and pure desire. Maya's stomach dropped. She didn't even need to ask the price. That cake would cost at least $40, maybe $50, more than she earned in 2 full days of cleaning. "Daisy, sweetie." Maya crouched down beside her daughter, placing a hand on her small shoulder. "I'm sorry, honey." Daisy turned to her, her eyes still shining with hope. Maya took a deep breath. She hated having to say those words, especially today. "We don't have enough money to buy it." The expression on Daisy's face slowly changed. Excitement turned to confusion, then to a disappointment that broke Maya's heart. "But Mommy, it's my birthday." Daisy's voice trembled. "I know, my love, I know." Maya forced a smile, trying to sound positive. "But look at these cupcakes here. They're beautiful too. And we'll sing happy birthday at home, really loud, just like you like." Daisy looked one more time at the pink cake, then at the small cupcakes, then back at her mother. Maya could see the process happening in the little girl's head, the slow understanding that we can't always have what we want, even when it's our special day. "Okay, Mommy." Daisy nodded, always so understanding, always so mature for a 5-year-old. "The cupcake will be good too." Maya felt her throat tighten. Her daughter shouldn't have to be so understanding. She shouldn't have to settle for less on her own birthday. "It will be delicious, you'll see. And afterward, we'll buy some balloons at the dollar store." They walked to the counter, where a young attendant in a striped uniform waited with a professional smile. The name tag on her chest read, Jenny. "Good afternoon. How can I help you? 1 cupcake, please." Maya pointed to one with white frosting and colorful sprinkles. "That one there." "Of course." Jenny picked up the cupcake with a small pair of tongs and placed it in a small white cardboard box. "Anything else?" Maya shook her head, taking the coins from her pocket. She counted out 2 crumpled $1 bills and 50 cents in small coins, placing it all on the counter. $2.50 exactly. Jenny smiled and handed her the box. Is it someone's birthday? Mine. Daisy held up 5 little fingers. I'm 5 today. Happy birthday, sweetie. 5 is a very big deal. On the other side of the bakery, at a small table by the window, a man sat alone drinking coffee. Maya noticed he had stopped reading his newspaper and was watching their conversation. There was something in his expression she couldn't decipher. It wasn't pity nor judgment. It was something deeper. Graham had watched everything in silence. The little girl pressing her face against the glass, her eyes filling with wonder at the sight of the pink cake, the mother carefully counting her coins, her forced smile trying to hide the pain. The gentle negotiation that every struggling mother knows well. When you want to give your child the world but can only offer a tiny piece. He knew that look in the mother's eyes. The weight of wanting to give everything to someone you love more than life itself and not being able to. The silent frustration of having to disappoint the most important person in the world. But it was the little girl's reaction that touched him the most. The way she accepted the disappointment, how she tried to protect her mother's feelings by being understanding. No 5-year-old should have to do that. Graham didn't plan what he did next. It was pure instinct, something that came from a deep place he had kept locked away for a long time. He waited for Maya and Daisy to head to a table in the corner of the bakery before he stood up. He walked to the counter, where Jenny was wiping down the coffee machine. Hi, can I get you anything else, sir? Yes. Graham pointed to the center of the display case. I'd like to buy that pink cake. Jenny followed his gaze. This one. It's a large cake, serves about 12 people. It's for the little girl who was just here, the one with brown hair. It's her birthday today. Jenny frowned, confused. Do you know them, sir? No. Graham took out his wallet without hesitation. But every child deserves to have a real birthday cake. Jenny's expression softened. Wow, what a beautiful gesture. Would you like me to deliver it as an anonymous gift? Exactly. You can say someone wanted to give her a special surprise. Graham paid the $45 without batting an eye. To him, it was just numbers in a bank account. For that family, it was probably more than they had for food for the entire week. He went back to his table, trying to look natural, as he watched Maya help Daisy open the cupcake box. The little girl clapped when she saw the colorful frosting, and Maya began to sing Happy Birthday softly. A few people in the bakery joined in, and Daisy smiled radiantly, bouncing in her chair. It was then that Jenny approached their table, carefully carrying the pink cake on a tray. Excuse me, she said, placing the cake on the table with great care. This cake is for the birthday girl. Daisy stopped chewing her cupcake, her eyes growing so wide that Maya was afraid they might pop out. For me, Daisy's voice came out in a disbelieving whisper. Of course. Someone wanted to give you a very special surprise for your birthday. Maya looked around the bakery, completely lost. But who? I don't understand. It was an anonymous gift. Jenny smiled, clearly moved to be part of that moment. Someone saw it was your birthday and wanted you to have a truly special day. Daisy started jumping in her chair, clapping her hands. Mommy, it's the pink cake, it's the pink cake, just like the one I wanted. Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. How long had it been since she had received kindness from a stranger? How long had it been since someone did something special for them without expecting anything in return? She looked around the bakery, searching for a familiar face, some clue as to who could have done this. Her eyes scanned the tables, the other customers, until they landed on the man by the window. He raised his coffee cup in a small, discreet toast, then went back to looking at his newspaper. Can I eat it now, Mommy, can I? Daisy was practically vibrating with joy. Maya quickly wiped her eyes, not wanting her daughter to see her tears. Of course, sweetie. It's all yours. Daisy didn't need to be told twice. She started eating with her hands, getting pink frosting all over her fingers. Maya laughed, a real laugh, from the bottom of her heart, the first in weeks. "Mommy, look. The little roses are real." Daisy showed her a small sugar rose. "Can I save one?" "You can save as many as you want, Princess." Graham finished his coffee slowly, watching the girl's pure joy. Each of her laughs was like a ray of sunshine after months of rain. When he stood up to leave, he couldn't resist walking past their table. Maya looked up as he approached. There was recognition in her eyes. She knew it had been him. "Excuse me," Graham said, stopping beside the table. "If you'll allow me, I'd love to invite you both to lunch." Maya blinked, surprised for the second time that day. "I'm sorry. I know it might seem strange, an invitation from a stranger, but it's her birthday and—" Graham searched for the right words. "So it would be an honor to celebrate with you." Daisy looked at him curiously, her face smeared with pink frosting. "Was it you who bought my cake?" Graham smiled, a smile that reached his eyes. "Maybe." "Mommy, can he have lunch with us?" Daisy turned to her mother, excited. "Please." Maya hesitated. She didn't know this man. It could be dangerous to accept invitations from strangers, but there was something in his eyes, a genuine kindness she hadn't seen in a long time. And after that gesture with the cake, she felt she could trust him. We wouldn't want to be a bother." "It wouldn't be a bother at all?" "It would be a pleasure." Maya looked at Daisy, who was clasping her hands in a plea, then back at Graham. There was sincerity in his voice, nothing forced or suspicious, just a kind invitation from someone who had made their day special. "All right," she said finally. "Thank you." Graham's smile widened. "I know a place nearby. Nothing too fancy, but the food is good and they're kid-friendly." He helped Maya box up the rest of the cake while Daisy skipped beside them, still euphoric from the surprise. They walked 3 blocks to a small, cozy restaurant called Rosie's Diner. The place had a warm, familiar feel, with red leather booths, formica tables, and old photographs on the walls. Graham asked for a table by the window, and they settled in. When Maya opened the menu, her face went pale. The dishes ranged from $12 to $25. A simple hamburger cost $15. She closed the menu quickly, her heart racing. We can't afford this." Her voice was low, embarrassed. Graham leaned forward, his voice gentle and firm. "You are my guests. Order whatever you'd like." "But sir, this is too expensive." "Graham, my name is Graham." He smiled warmly. "And I insist. It's her birthday. Let me do this." Maya looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of pity or condescension. She found nothing but pure sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. The waitress approached, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and a warm smile. "Good afternoon, folks. What can I get for you today?" Daisy studied the menu with all the seriousness of a 5-year-old, pointing to the colorful pictures. "I want mac and cheese," she announced, tapping the table. "The big one." "Excellent choice, dear," the waitress smiled. "Meant for Mum." Maya hesitated, still uncomfortable with the generosity. "A salad, the simplest one." "The Caesar is fine," Graham nodded to the waitress, "and I'll have the turkey sandwich with fries." While they waited for the food, Graham didn't ask any invasive personal questions. Instead, he talked to Daisy about cartoons, about school, about her favorite toys. "Who's your favorite princess?" he asked. "All of them," Daisy laughed. "But I want to be a different kind of princess, one that helps people, like Mommy does." Maya felt her eyes fill with tears again. Graham noticed but didn't comment. The food arrived on large and steaming plates. Daisy attacked the mac and cheese as if she hadn't eaten in days, and maybe that was true. Maya ate slowly, savoring every bite of the fresh salad. "Is it good, Mommy?" Daisy asked, her mouth full. "It's delicious, sweetie." When Daisy finished her mac and cheese, wiping the plate clean with her finger, she looked hopefully at Graham. "Can I have dessert?" Maya was about to say no automatically, But Graham spoke first. Of course you can. It's your birthday, after all. Daisy ordered strawberry ice cream with chocolate sauce and whipped cream. When it arrived in a large glass, she ate it with her eyes shining with pure happiness. Graham watched the scene in silence. He didn't try to make forced conversation or present himself as a hero. He just offered genuine presence and simple kindness. When they finished, Maya gathered the courage to ask what had been puzzling her since the bakery. Why did you do this? For us? You don't even know us. Graham was quiet for a long moment, looking out the window at the busy street outside. Sometimes, he said finally, we just need to remember that there's still kindness in the world. And sometimes, we need to be that kindness. Maya didn't know what to say. His words touched something deep inside her that she had almost forgotten, the idea that good people still existed. Thank you, she said, and this time her voice didn't tremble. I don't know if this was a little or a lot for you, but for her it was everything. Graham nodded slowly. It was everything for me, too. They said their goodbyes in front of the restaurant. Daisy ran to give Graham a tight hug, still holding a piece of the pink cake wrapped in a napkin. Thank you for my cake and for lunch, she said, looking up at him with pure admiration. You're welcome as princess. Happy birthday. Maya extended her hand to Graham, who shook it gently. Thank you so much for everything, for making this day special for her. The pleasure was all mine. Graham watched them walk away down the sidewalk, Daisy skipping beside her mother, chattering excitedly about the cake, the lunch, about the kind man who had made her birthday perfect. He stood for a long moment watching them disappear around the corner. For the first time in months, perhaps years, Graham felt truly light, as if a weight he had been carrying for so long had lessened, even if just a little, as if he had remembered who he used to be before the pain took over everything. He didn't know it yet, but that encounter would change everything for him, for Maya, for Daisy. Sometimes the best beginnings are born from the simplest gestures. A pink cake in a display window, a lunch shared with strangers, the decision to reach out when someone is in need. Sometimes that's how life offers a second chance, through a 5-year-old girl who wanted a pink cake and found so much more. Graham was walking down Maple Street for the 3rd time that week. He didn't have a specific reason to be there, at least not one he'd admit to himself. He just felt a strange urge to walk these streets, as if he were looking for something he couldn't name. He had spent the last 3 days thinking about them, about the 5-year-old girl who wanted a pink cake, about the mother who counted her coins so carefully, the way Daisy had eaten her mac and cheese, as if it were the best thing in the world, Maya's smile when she saw her daughter happy. It didn't make sense. He didn't know them. He didn't even know their last names. But there was something about that encounter that had stirred him in a way he couldn't explain. It was a Thursday afternoon, the sun casting long shadows on the sidewalk. Graham turned the corner of Oak Avenue, already thinking about heading home, when he saw them. Maya and Daisy were walking down the sidewalk hand in hand. Maya was carrying a plastic grocery bag, probably a few basic items. Daisy was skipping beside her, making her mother laugh with some animated story. Graham's heart sped up. This was exactly what he had been looking for, without even knowing it. Daisy was the first to spot him. Her eyes widened, and she stopped skipping. "Mommy!" she yelled, pointing in his direction. "It's the pink cake man!" Maya looked up, following her daughter's gaze. When she saw Graham, her face lit up with a genuine smile of surprise. Daisy let go of her mother's hand and ran toward him, her little sneakers pattering on the concrete. "Hi, hi!" She stopped in front of him, breathless but radiant. "Do you live around here?" Graham smiled, crouching down to her level. "Not exactly. I was just taking a walk." "Taking a walk?" Daisy tilted her head. "My mommy says grown-ups don't take walks for no reason." Maya approached, still smiling. "Daisy, don't be nosy." "It's all right," Graham laughed, standing up. "She's right. I was walking for no specific reason." Maya studied him for a moment. There was something in his eyes that suggested she understood more than she was letting on. As if she knew he had been looking for them, even if he wouldn't admit it himself. "What a nice coincidence," she said. "We were just coming back from shopping." Daisy picked out cereal with marshmallows. "They have little pink hearts," Daisy added, proud of her choice. Graham smiled. "Excellent taste." There was a moment of comfortable silence between them. Maya adjusted the bag on her shoulder, seeming to consider something. "Graham," she said finally, "would you like to come up for a coffee? It's just black coffee, but it comes with conversation." The simplicity of the invitation touched him. No formalities, no pretenses, just a sincere offer of hospitality. "I'd love that," he replied. They walked together to a small 3-story building. The paint on the walls was peeling in some places, and clothes were hanging on the balconies, but the place had a familiar, welcoming feel. Maya led them up to the 2nd floor, stopping in front of a blue door with the number 2B. "Welcome to our castle," she said with a slightly shy smile. The apartment was small but impeccably clean. A simple living room connected to a tiny kitchen. Graham noticed the furniture was sparse but well cared for, a second-hand couch covered with a colorful throw, a coffee table with a few stacked magazines, a small TV on a makeshift shelf of cinder blocks and planks. On the walls, Daisy's drawings were hung with tape. Houses with smoking chimneys, giant flowers, families of stick figures under smiling suns. "Daisy, can you go play in your room while Mommy makes coffee?" Maya said, taking off her shoes. "Can I show Graham my drawings first?" Maya looked at him, seeking approval. "Of course you can," Graham said. "I'd love to see them." Daisy led him to the living room wall, proudly pointing to each work of art. "This one is me and Mommy at the beach. We've never been, but I imagine it's like this." Graham studied the drawing, 2 stick figures under a yellow sun with blue waves in the background. "It's beautiful. You two look happy there." "We are happy," Daisy said with conviction, "even without going to the beach." Something about that simple statement made Graham's chest tighten. Maya had disappeared into the kitchen, and Graham could hear the sound of water boiling and the clinking of cups. "Graham," Daisy whispered, moving closer to him. "Do you like my mommy?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean? You're nice to her, and not everyone is nice to her." Before Graham could answer, Maya returned carrying a tray with 2 steaming cups and a glass of juice for Daisy. "Daisy, go play for a little bit. The grown-ups are going to talk." "Okay." Daisy took her juice and headed for her room, but stopped at the door. "Graham, are you staying for dinner?" Maya blushed. "Daisy, it's okay," Graham said quickly. "Thanks for the invitation, but I don't want to intrude." "Can he stay, Mommy, please?" Maya hesitated, then smiled. "If he wants to, of course. I'd love to," Graham replied, and realized he was being completely sincere. Daisy cheered and disappeared into her room. Maya gestured toward the small balcony that overlooked the back of the building. "Want to sit outside? The coffee's better with a little fresh air." The balcony was tiny, with just 2 plastic chairs and a few plants in makeshift pots. From there, they could see the backyard, where other children played among clotheslines. Maya served the coffee and sat down, sighing lightly. "Thank you," Graham said, holding the warm cup between his hands, "for inviting me." "Thank you." "For everything. Daisy still talks about the pink cake every day." They sipped their coffee in silence for a few moments. It was a comfortable silence, with no pressure to fill every second with words. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said finally. "Of course. Why were you walking around here? You said you don't live nearby." Graham hesitated. How could he explain something he didn't fully understand himself? "Honestly, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to see how you were doing." Maya nodded slowly, as if that answer made sense to her. "And how are we?" Graham looked at her, brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, tired but kind eyes, clean but clearly well-worn clothes. "You're doing well." "Tired, maybe. But, well, tired is a gentle way of putting it." Maya laughed without much humor. "But you're right. We're doing well." She paused for a moment, looking at the children playing below. You know, I'm not used to having visitors. In fact, you're the first person to come in here in months. Why is that? Maya took a deep breath, as if making an important decision. Because I don't have much to offer, and because... She paused. Because when you don't have much, you learn to be wary when someone is too kind. Graham waited, sensing there was more. But you're different, she continued. I don't know why, but you are. Maya, Graham said softly, you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. I know. But maybe I want to. She took another sip of coffee, gathering her courage. Daisy will be 6 in a few months. And 6 years ago I was pregnant and alone. Graham kept his expression neutral, not wanting her to stop. Her father. Well, when he found out about the pregnancy, he said he wasn't ready to be a dad. And he vanished. Literally. Moved to another city, blocked my number, disappeared. Her voice held no bitterness, just a resigned sadness. My family. They didn't approve. They said if I insisted on having the baby, I'd be on my own. And I am. On my own. Since then, I've made a living by cleaning. I clean offices at night, houses during the day. Anything that allows me to bring Daisy along or work while she's sleeping. Graham felt a tightness in his chest, imagining Maya working all night, then taking care of Daisy during the day. It's hard, she continued. Very hard. I've gone to work sick. I've gone to bed not knowing if there'd be food the next day. I've had to choose between medicine for her and food for both of us. Her voice trembled slightly, but she composed herself. But for her, I keep going, because she deserves a mother who fights, who doesn't give up. The silence that followed was profound. Graham looked at Maya, really looked at her. He saw the quiet strength in her shoulders, the determination in her eyes, the unconditional love that kept her standing every day. You're incredible, he said finally. Maya shook her head. I'm not. I'm just a mother doing what she has to do. That's what makes you incredible. Daisy appeared at the balcony door, holding a piece of paper. Mommy, look, I drew Graham with us. Maya reached out, and Daisy handed her the drawing. It was typical for a child, 3 stick figures under a smiling sun. But this time there were 3 figures, not 2. It's beautiful, sweetie, Maya said, her voice a little choked up. Graham looked at the drawing, at the beaming Daisy, at Maya trying not to cry. Something moved inside him, something that had been dormant for a long time. Can I have a copy? He asked. You can have this one, Daisy said. I'll make another one for Mommy. Are you sure? I'm sure. So you don't forget us? Graham held the drawing carefully, as if it were made of glass. I won't forget you, he said, looking into Maya's eyes. Not ever. And in that moment, on the small balcony of a simple apartment, with a 5-year-old girl handing out drawings and a mother sharing her story, a door opened. Not just the apartment door, but a door to something new, something none of the 3 had expected to find. There, trust was born, not just between Maya and Graham, but something deeper. The belief that maybe, just maybe, none of them had to be alone. Graham stayed for dinner, which was simple, pasta with tomato sauce and a salad. But the small table felt perfect, with the 3 of them sitting around it. Daisy telling stories from school, Maya laughing for real, Graham feeling part of something he didn't know he was looking for. When he left, it was already dark. Daisy had fallen asleep on the couch, and Maya carried her to bed. Thank you, she said when she came back, for listening, for not judging. Thank you, for trusting me. They said goodbye at the door, but both knew it wasn't a final farewell. It was just the beginning of something they didn't have a name for yet, but that was already a part of their lives. Graham walked down the stairs holding Daisy's drawing, feeling lighter than he had in years. And Maya closed the door, leaning against it for a moment, a small smile on her lips. The door to a new relationship had opened, and this time, Neither of them was in a hurry to close it. 3 days had passed since the coffee on the balcony, but Graham couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Maya. The words she had shared with such courage kept echoing in his mind during work, at meals, before sleep. The image of her working through the night, then caring for Daisy during the day, carrying the weight of supporting a family all by herself, deeply unsettled him. He knew that struggle. Not in the same way, but he knew the feeling of carrying enormous responsibilities for someone you love more than life itself. The difference was that Maya was doing it completely alone, with no support system, no one to share the burden or offer relief in the toughest moments. It was Saturday morning when Graham parked in front of the Westfield supermarket. The parking lot was bustling with families doing their weekend shopping, carts being pushed by parents with endless lists. Graham didn't have a specific list, just a growing need to do something useful, something that truly mattered. He grabbed a cart and started walking through the aisles, thinking carefully about what a mother and a 5-year-old child would need day to day. Brown rice, black beans, pasta, the staples that sustain a family and yield several nutritious meals. Fresh fruits that Daisy would love, bright red apples, ripe yellow bananas, sweet seasonal strawberries, whole milk, organic eggs, soft white bread. In the cleaning supplies aisle, he chose quality detergent, concentrated laundry soap, all-purpose disinfectant. Products Maya used both for her cleaning job and at home, and that would last longer. In the personal hygiene section, he picked up gentle-scented children's shampoo, conditioner, fluoride toothpaste, moisturizing soap. Basic but essential items that weigh heavily on a budget when you have to choose between necessities. Lastly, he stopped at the supermarket's bakery. Colorful mini cupcakes were on display, small, perfect, decorated with pastel-colored frosting that looked like miniature paintings, exactly what would make the eyes of a little girl who had fallen in love with a pink cake shine with pure joy. In the checkout line, Graham questioned for the first time if he was doing the right thing. Maya was proud, independent, strong as steel. Could she misinterpret his gesture? Think he felt sorry for her or Daisy? Feel diminished or humiliated? But then he remembered the immense trust she had placed in him by sharing her story with such vulnerability. He remembered the way she had shared her struggles without self-pity, just raw honesty. This wasn't about pity or charity. It was about genuine care between people who were starting to matter to each other. At home, Graham carefully arranged everything in a wicker basket he found in the closet. He placed the basic goods at the bottom, the colorful fruits in the middle, and put the mini cupcakes on top. Like a small multicolored smile over all the practical items. It was functional, but it also had a touch of joy and affection. The hallway of apartment 2B was quiet when he arrived on Sunday afternoon. Graham heard soft music coming from inside, something gentle that created a cozy atmosphere. He knocked on the door and heard familiar footsteps approaching. "Ty, who is it?" "It's me, Graham." The door opened, revealing Maya in comfortable home clothes, a faded lavender t-shirt and grey sweatpants. Her brown hair was up in a messy bun, and there was a small smudge of blue paint on her left cheek, probably from some activity with Daisy Hanami Graham. What a surprise! Her eyes automatically dropped to the large basket in his hands, and her expression subtly changed. A shadow of suspicion crossed her face. "What is this?" "A few things I thought you might be able to use," he said, trying to sound casual and natural, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Maya looked at the basket, then at him, then at the basket again. Graham could practically see the thoughts racing through her mind, gratitude mixed with suspicion, need battling against fierce pride. She hesitated, crossing her arms defensively over her chest. "Is this pity?" The question was loaded with both vulnerability and defense. Graham understood immediately. Maya had spent years being judged, being seen as a poor thing, being treated as a charity case by people who wanted to feel better about themselves. No, he answered with absolute firmness and conviction. It's gratitude, it's care. Maya studied him for a long moment, searching his eyes for any sign of condescension or falsehood. Gratitude for what? You let me into your home. You shared your story with me. You made me feel... Graham searched for the right words, ones that would express the truth without sounding over the top. You made me feel connected again. That's worth much more than anything in this basket. Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly, but her guard was still partially up. And care? She asked, her voice softer now. Because I care about both of you, and when we genuinely care about someone, we want to make sure they're okay. Not out of obligation, but by personal choice. Maya looked once more at the basket, and Graham could see the internal battle raging between the fierce pride that kept her standing every day and the practical reality that help was welcome, especially when offered with respect. Graham, Mommy? Who is it? Daisy appeared behind her mother, still in pink unicorn pajamas, her brown hair completely tousled from an afternoon nap. It's Graham, sweetie. Graham! Daisy squeezed between her mother's legs, beaming. You brought cupcakes. I can see them on top of the basket. Graham laughed, always impressed by her sharp observation skills. How did you know? Because you're the sweets man, Daisy clapped excitedly. Mommy, can he come in, please? Maya looked into Graham's eyes one more time, searching, carefully evaluating. He held her gaze steadily, letting her see all the sincerity in his intentions. Come in, she said finally, stepping aside. And thank you. Graham handed the basket to Maya, who received it with natural dignity. There was no humiliation in her gesture, no exaggerated or uncomfortable gratitude, just genuine acceptance of a well-intentioned gesture between people who were starting to become important to each other. This isn't help, Graham said softly, echoing Maya's unspoken thoughts. It's presence. Maya nodded slowly, perfectly understanding the crucial distinction. Help implied desperate need, inability. Presence implied caring, being part of something bigger. In the small but organized kitchen, they unpacked the basket together. Daisy celebrated each item as if it were Christmas morning, hopping from one foot to the other. Red apples. I love red apples, they're the sweetest. And bananas, Mommy, look how big and yellow these bananas are. Strawberries, can I eat one now, just one? And the cupcakes, they're tiny and perfect. Can I have one after lunch? Maya laughed, a genuine and contagious laugh that filled the small apartment with human warmth. After lunch, princess? Now let's put everything away properly. Graham stayed to help organize the groceries in the cabinets. He noticed Maya had an efficient system, everything in its place, maximizing the limited space. Graham stayed for lunch, simple ham and cheese sandwiches, but made with care and affection. And for an afternoon snack, apple slices with peanut butter. And to help Daisy with a 100-piece puzzle that had been giving her trouble for days. Graham, you're so good at puzzles, Daisy exclaimed when he found several pieces that fit perfectly. Can you help me always? Whenever you want, he replied, genuinely touched by her simple trust. When Maya casually mentioned that the kitchen faucet had been dripping for 3 weeks and wasting water, Graham asked if he could take a look. 20 minutes later, armed with a basic wrench, the problem was completely fixed. How did you learn to do that? Maya asked, genuinely impressed. My father was an engineer. I grew up tinkering with broken things, trying to understand how they worked. It must have been special to have a father who taught you those things, Maya said, a subtle note of nostalgia in her voice. Graham nodded but didn't elaborate. He wasn't ready to talk about his own complicated story yet. A week later, Graham returned. This time with a bag full of children's books he had found at a used bookstore downtown. He had spent time selecting stories Daisy might like, adventures of brave princesses, tales of true friendship, fables with gentle lessons. Stories! Daisy shouted when she saw the bag, running to hug Graham's legs. Shout, you brought stories for me. Do you read to her every night? Graham asked Maya, as Daisy explored the books with reverence. Every single night, without exception. It's our special time, just the two of us. Can I read one now? Graham offered hesitantly. Daisy was already settling onto the small couch, making room for him beside her. Maya sat on her daughter's other side, and the three of them squeezed comfortably onto the furniture that barely fit two. Graham read The Brave Princess, with different voices for each character, making Daisy laugh until she cried with his exaggerated impressions. Maya watched, a genuine smile on her face, seeing her daughter so completely happy and engaged. The visits became frequent and natural. Graham invariably showed up on weekends, sometimes during the week too. Always with some plausible reason, he brought an educational toy he had seen and remembered Daisy, offered to help with some small repair, or showed up at dinner time, just passing by. Maya began to look forward to his visits, though she would never admit it out loud. She found herself tidying the apartment more carefully on weekends, preparing extra coffee, leaving the door ajar to hear his familiar footsteps on the stairs. The house that was once quiet, punctuated only by the voices of Maya and Daisy, now echoed with more frequent laughter and lively conversations. Graham had a special gift for making Daisy laugh. He imitated cartoon character voices, made up crazy stories about unicorns, played make-believe with a seriousness that made everything even more fun. "Graham," Daisy said one rainy afternoon, as they were building an elaborate castle of blocks, "can you stay here with us forever?" Graham stopped stacking blocks and looked at Maya, who was folding clothes on the couch. She had stopped too, waiting for his answer. "Why do you want me to stay?" he asked carefully. "Because you make Mommy smile more often. And because you know how to fix things that are broken, and because you always bring cupcakes or stories." Graham laughed softly. "Those are good reasons." "And because you're my friend, Graham," Daisy added, as if that explained everything and was the most important reason. "My friend Graham," he repeated, deeply touched by the simple declaration. "Yeah. You're not like the other people who come here sometimes. You really stay, you play with me, you help Mommy." Maya stopped folding clothes, looking at her daughter in surprise. "What other people, sweetie? You know, those women from social services. They're nice, but they just ask questions and leave. Graham stays." Graham felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't know there were social workers visiting regularly. Maya noticed his expression. "It's protocol," she explained calmly. "Single mother, low income. They check to make sure everything's okay." "And is it?" Graham asked with concern. "It always has been," Maya answered firmly. "Daisy is well cared for, well fed, well loved. They've never found any problems." "But Graham is different," Daisy continued. "He doesn't ask boring questions. He just stays." That afternoon, while Daisy was napping, Maya and Graham sat on the balcony with coffee. "She's right, you know," Maya said. "You are different." "How so?" "Most people who know our situation either feel sorry for us, or they want to fix us, or they want to feel better by being charitable." Maya took a thoughtful sip of coffee. "But you're just here. You don't try to give me advice on how to improve my life. You don't make me feel like a project." "Because you're not a project," Graham said with conviction. "You're an incredible person raising an incredible daughter. There's nothing to fix. See? That's exactly it. You see us as we are, not as poor, unfortunate souls." "Can I tell you something?" Maya said hesitantly. "Always. I find myself waiting for you to come. I shouldn't, because I don't want to depend on anyone, but I do." The admission was brave and vulnerable. "Daisy does too. She asks every day if you're going to show up." "And does that bother you?" Graham asked. Maya thought for a moment. "It used to, because it meant we were getting used to you, and people like us. It's dangerous to get used to good things." "Why?" "Because they can leave." Graham turned to look at her directly. "I'm not going to leave, Maya. You can't promise that. Yes, I can, and I do. There was something in his voice that made Maya believe him. In the following weeks, Graham's presence became even more natural. Maya gave him a key to the apartment for emergencies. He knew where she kept Daisy's medicine. He knew the household routine as if he had always been a part of it. When Daisy caught the flu, Graham showed up with soup and medicine. When the washing machine broke, he fixed it. When Maya had to work a double shift, he stayed with Daisy without a second thought. "My friend Graham is picking me up from school today," Daisy announced to her teacher. As if it were a normal thing, Maya was no longer surprised. Graham had become a part of their routine. He was no longer a visitor who knocked on the door and waited to be invited in. He had his place at the dinner table, his spot on the couch, his reserved coffee cup. Daisy no longer needed to explain who he was. "It's Graham," she would say, as if that explained everything, and it did. One evening, while they were watching a movie, Daisy fell asleep between Maya and Graham on the couch. Maya went to carry her to bed, and when she returned, she found Graham picking up the scattered toys. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know," he replied, continuing. "But I want to." Maya sat down, watching him. There was something moving about seeing this man choose to spend his time picking up toys in a small apartment. "Graham." "Yes. Thank you for everything." He stopped and looked at her. "Thank you for letting me be a part of this." And it was true. Maya had let Graham not just into her home, but into her life, and he had chosen to stay. He was no longer a visitor. He was a part of the morning routine when he helped Daisy get ready, part of the afternoons reading stories, part of the evenings having dinner together, part of the family that none of the three had planned, but that all had chosen to build. It was a Thursday afternoon when Graham arrived at apartment 2B with a different expression. Maya noticed it immediately. There was something in his eyes, a mix of nervousness and determination she hadn't seen before. "Hi, Graham." Daisy ran to hug him, as she always did. "Did you bring anything today?" "I brought an idea," Graham replied, smiling at the girl but looking at Maya. Maya served coffee at the small kitchen table, while Daisy busied herself with her coloring books on the living room floor. Graham stirred his cup, clearly gathering his thoughts. "Maya," he said finally, "can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Have you ever thought about changing jobs?" The question caught Maya off guard. She stopped drinking her coffee, studying his face. "Why?" Graham took a deep breath. "I want to show you something. My company. If you'd like, of course." Maya frowned. "Your company?" "Yeah, I never really told you about my work. I have an architectural consulting firm, small but stable." Maya nodded slowly. She had wondered about Graham's job, but never wanted to seem intrusive. "And why do you want me to see it?" Graham hesitated for a moment. "Because maybe there's something there that might interest you." The following Saturday, Maya left Daisy with the downstairs neighbor and went with Graham to the city center. The building where the company was located was modest but well kept. 3 floors of glass and brick, with a discreet sign at the entrance, "Morgan and Associates, Architectural Consulting." "Are you Morgan?" Maya asked. "My last name," Graham confirmed, opening the door for her. The office was welcoming. Plants in the windows, organized desks, a few people working quietly even on a Saturday. Graham greeted a few employees. They all seemed to genuinely like him. "This is the archive," Graham said, stopping in front of a large room filled with organized file cabinets. "All the projects from the last 15 years are in here. Blueprints, contracts, documents." Maya looked around. It was a job that required organization, attention to detail, but nothing impossible. "It's a lot of work for one person," Graham continued. "My assistant handles it along with other things, but it's becoming too much." Maya began to understand where he was going with this. Graham." "Wait, let me finish." He turned to her. "I need someone to specifically manage the archives, organize, catalog, digitize old documents. It's a full-time job, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. salary of $1,400 a month plus benefits. Maya felt her stomach clench. $1,400 was more than she made in 2 months of cleaning. Why are you offering me this? Because you're competent, because you're organized, because you deserve stability. Maya shook her head. I don't want to depend on anyone. The response was automatic, a defense she had built up over the years. Graham looked her directly in the eye. You've been depending on yourself for a long time. This is just a door. You decide if you want to walk through it. Maya walked to the window, looking at the busy street below, people coming and going, each with their own purpose. What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm not good enough? What if it does work out? What if you're better than you imagine? Maya turned to him. This is charity, Graham. It's not. It's a job offer for someone who is qualified. Graham stepped closer. Maya, you've cleaned offices for years. You know how to keep things organized, how to handle important documents. You have all the necessary skills, but you're only offering because what? Because I care about you and Daisy? Yes, I care. But that doesn't make the offer any less real or less deserved. Maya was silent for a long moment. I don't have a college degree. You don't need one. You have something better, practical experience and responsibility. What if people think it's favoritism? People will think whatever they want. What matters is that you know you deserve this opportunity. Maya returned to the window. Below, she saw a woman with a small child walking down the sidewalk. The woman looked tired, but determined. Can I think about it? Of course. Take as much time as you need. On the way back home, they were mostly silent. Maya looked out the car window, lost in thought. Graham, she said as they neared the apartment. Yes, why do you do this for us? Graham parked in front of the building and turned off the engine. He was quiet for a moment. Because you reminded me that there's still kindness in the world, and because you've become important to me. Very important. That night, after Daisy went to sleep, Maya sat on the balcony with a cup of tea thinking, $1,400 a month would mean a better apartment. It would mean not having to choose between food and medicine. It would mean being able to buy new clothes for Daisy. But it would also mean accepting help from Graham in a different way. It would mean trusting that he wouldn't change his mind. The next morning, Maya made her decision. Mommy, Daisy said, munching on cereal, you're looking thoughtful. I'm thinking about something important, sweetie. What is it? Maya sat down next to her daughter. Maybe Mommy is going to work at a new place. Daisy's eyes widened. Where? At Graham's office, taking care of important papers. Is that a good thing? Maya smiled. I think so, Princess. I think it could be a very good thing. When Graham arrived that afternoon, Maya was waiting for him. I accept, she said before he even came inside. Graham stopped at the door. Are you sure? I am. Maya took a deep breath. For Daisy. For me. Because you're right, this is a door, and I want to walk through it. The smile that spread across Graham's face was radiant. When can I start? Maya asked. Monday, if you'd like. I would. Daisy came running from the kitchen. Mommy's going to work with Graham. Not exactly with him, sweetie. In the same place as him. Does that mean we'll see Graham every day? Maya and Graham looked at each other, smiling. Not every day, Maya said, but we'll see each other more. That night, after Graham left, Maya lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. It wasn't just about the money, though that was important. It was about dignity. It was about having a job that didn't leave her exhausted, that didn't force her to work through the night. It was about the possibility of a different future. On Monday morning, Maya dressed with care. She chose her best blouse, the skirt she saved for special occasions. Mommy, you look pretty, Daisy said, clapping her hands. Thank you, sweetie. Mommy's nervous. Why? Because it's an important day, a day for a new beginning. Graham came to pick her up, as they had arranged. In the car, Maya looked out at the city windows with different eyes. Nervous? Graham asked. Very. It's normal. You'll do great. When they arrived at the office, Graham's assistant was waiting to welcome her, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile. You must be Maya. Welcome to the team. Maya smiled, still nervous but grateful. I'll show you everything, the woman said. Oh, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it in no time. As she explained the filing system, Maya felt like she was learning a new language. But it was a language that made sense, that fit with her organized nature. At the end of the first day, when Graham offered to drive her home, Maya was tired but satisfied. How was it? He asked. Different. Ah, good, different. Maya looked at her own hands. For the first time in years, they weren't chapped from cleaning products. It's the first step of a possible new beginning, she said, almost whispering. Graham smiled. That's exactly what it is. When they got home, Daisy was waiting at the window. Mommy, how was your first day? Maya scooped her up, spinning her around in the small living room. It was the beginning of something new, Princess. The beginning of something very good. That night, as Daisy slept, Maya sat on the balcony looking at the stars. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't seem like a constant struggle. It seemed like a possibility. 3 weeks had passed since Maya started working at Graham's company. The routine had settled in naturally. He picked her up every morning. They worked in the same building but maintained a respectful professional distance, and in the evening he drove her home, where they would have dinner together like a family. It was a Thursday evening. Daisy had fallen asleep earlier than usual, tired from a full day at school. Maya and Graham were sitting on the small balcony, each with a cup of coffee, watching the city lights turn on one by one. The silence between them was comfortable, as had become the norm. It wasn't the awkward silence of people with nothing to say, but the natural quiet of two people who feel at ease in each other's company. Maya glanced at Graham from time to time, noticing how he seemed more relaxed in recent weeks. The tension lines around his eyes had softened, and he smiled more often. But there was still something about him, a deep sadness she could perceive in the quietest moments when he thought no one was watching. Graham, she said finally, breaking the soft silence of the night. Yes? Maya hesitated for a moment, turning the cup in her hands. Sai, can I ask you something? You can always ask. She took a deep breath, gathering the courage to ask the question that had intrigued her since that first day at the bakery. Why did you do all of that for us? Graham paused with the cup halfway to his lips. He froze for a long moment, as if the question had triggered something deep inside him. What do you mean? From the beginning. The pink cake, the lunch, the visits, the basket, the job. Maya paused. You didn't know us. You didn't owe us anything. Why did you do it all? Graham set his cup on the small table next to his chair. His hands trembled slightly, and Maya noticed. It's a long story, he said, avoiding her gaze. We have time. Graham was silent for so long that Maya began to think he wouldn't answer. He stared at his own hands, as if gathering strength for something very difficult. Finally, he took a deep breath and looked into her eyes. That day, he began, his voice lower than usual, the day we met, was the anniversary of my daughter's death. Maya felt the air leave her lungs. The cup nearly slipped from her hands. Your daughter? Graham nodded, his eyes filling with a pain Maya recognized immediately, the pain of someone who has lost the most important person in the world. Emily, he said, and the name came out like a prayer. She was 5 years old, the same age Daisy is now. Maya said nothing, just waited. Instinctively, she knew this was a story Graham needed to tell at his own pace. I raised her by myself since she was born, Graham continued, his voice growing steadier as he spoke. Her mother, Jennifer, died in childbirth, complications no one expected. Suddenly, I was alone with a newborn baby, with no idea what I was doing. He paused, running a hand through his hair, a gesture Maya had come to recognize as a sign of nervousness. It was hard at first, very hard. I worked from home so I could take care of her, barely slept, lived in a constant panic that I was doing everything wrong. But Emily, a sad smile crossed his face. Emily was special. She lit up everything around her. Maya felt tears welling up, imagining a young, lonely Graham caring for a baby. Like Daisy, she whispered. Exactly like Daisy, Graham confirmed. The energy, the curiosity, the way she asked questions about everything. Emily loved stories. She loved to draw. She loved cupcakes. His voice broke on the last word, and Maya understood why Graham always brought sweets for Daisy. When she was 4, Graham continued after a moment, Emily started getting tired frequently. At first we thought it was normal, an active child who played too much, but then other symptoms appeared. Weight loss, aches, constant fevers. Maya closed her eyes, already anticipating what was coming next. She was diagnosed with leukemia, a rare, aggressive form. Graham's voice was controlled now, as if he had told this story to himself so many times he had found a way to recount it without completely falling apart. They said the chances were slim, but there were treatments, that there was hope. Graham, she fought for a whole year, a year of hospitals, chemotherapy, surgeries. She was so brave, Maya, so strong. Even when she was too weak to get out of bed, she would smile at me and say she was going to get better. Tears were now streaming freely down Maya's face. She could picture it perfectly. A brave little girl fighting something much bigger than herself, and a desperate father trying to be strong. For months, it seemed like she was improving. The doctors talked about remission, about a cure. I started to believe we had beaten it. Graham paused, taking a deep breath. But then the disease came back. More aggressive than before. Maya wanted to say something, anything, but she knew there were no words for this kind of pain. In the last few months, I practically lived at the hospital. The company almost went bankrupt because I couldn't focus on anything else. Nothing mattered except being with her, making sure she knew she was loved. Graham's voice started to tremble again. In the final week, the doctors said there was nothing more they could do, that it was a matter of days. I stayed with her day and night, holding her hand, reading her favorite stories, singing the songs she liked. Maya could no longer hold back her sobs. The pain in Graham's voice was palpable, as if the wound were still open and bleeding. She died on a Tuesday morning. She just slipped away, sleeping while holding my hand. Graham paused, wiping his own eyes. That was 3 years ago. But that day in the bakery, it was the anniversary of her death. Maya understood everything at once. Why he was alone that day. Why the scene with her and Daisy had touched him so deeply. Why he had approached them. I had left the house because I couldn't stand being there, Graham continued. Every year, on that day, I drive aimlessly, as if trying to escape the memories. I went into that bakery just because it was raining. He looked directly at Maya, and then I saw you. I saw Daisy looking at that pink cake with the same eyes Emily had when she wanted something. I saw you trying to be strong for her, even when it was obvious things were hard. And for the first time in 3 years, Graham paused, searching for the right words. For the first time in 3 years, I remembered that life still existed, that there were still mothers fighting to make their daughters happy, that there were still children dreaming of pink cakes. Maya couldn't speak. The tears streamed down her face as she processed everything Graham had just shared. That day, I just wanted to be alone with my pain, Graham said. But then I saw you, and I remembered that life goes on. That Emily would have wanted me to help other children get their pink cakes. The silence that followed was deep and charged with emotion. Maya finally understood why Graham had entered their lives. It wasn't charity, it wasn't pity. It was a man trying to give meaning to his loss by helping another family. Without a word, Maya reached out and took Graham's hand. Their fingers intertwined naturally, and she could feel him trembling slightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For telling me. For trusting me with this." Graham squeezed her hand. "Thank you. For letting me be a part of your lives. For giving me a purpose again." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the pain he carried, but she also saw the strength. She saw how he had transformed his loss into something beautiful, into genuine care for others. "Emily would be proud of you," she said. Graham smiled through his tears. "I hope so." They sat in silence for a few more minutes, hands intertwined, each lost in their own thoughts. Maya thought about how strange life was, how Graham's greatest loss had become the greatest blessing in her life. "Graham?" "Yes. You're not alone. Not anymore." He looked at her, and Maya saw something shift in his eyes. An acceptance, a peace that wasn't there before. "I know," he said, "and neither are you. You'll never be alone again." That night, after Graham left, Maya lay awake for hours, thinking about the story he had told. She finally understood why he always looked at Daisy with such affection, why he cared so much about them. It wasn't just kindness, it was transformed love. It was a father who had lost his daughter finding a way to keep being a father. And Maya knew with absolute certainty that she understood him as no one else could, because she also knew what it was like to do anything for the person you love. She also knew what it was like to carry the world on your shoulders for a child. The difference was that now, for the first time, neither of them was carrying that weight alone. 2 weeks had passed since the night Graham told her about Emily. Something had changed between them, not drastically, but in a subtle and profound way. It was as if a door that had been ajar had swung wide open, allowing them to know each other more truly. Maya noticed small differences in Graham. He smiled more easily, especially when he was with Daisy. His visits, which once always had an excuse, now happened simply because he wanted to be there. And Maya had stopped being surprised when she heard him in the kitchen making coffee while she was still getting ready. It was an ordinary Tuesday, one of those lazy autumn afternoons. Maya was folding laundry on the couch while watching Graham and Daisy at the kitchen table, hunched over the girls' homework. "No, Daisy," Graham said patiently. "Let's try again. How many apples are left if John ate 2 out of 5? 3, Daisy answered excitedly, making little marks on her paper. "That's right. You're so smart." Maya smiled, watching the scene. Graham had infinite patience with Daisy, explaining the problems as many times as necessary. It was impossible not to notice how his eyes lit up when the girl understood something new. "Graham," Daisy said suddenly, dropping her pencil, "are you staying for dinner tonight?" "If your mom lets me, of course I am." "She always lets you." Daisy laughed. "You practically live here." Graham paused, his pencil suspended in mid-air. Maya also stopped folding laundry. There was a simple truth in Daisy's innocent observation. "It's true," Graham said finally, smiling. "I practically do live here." "And I like it," Daisy declared. "It's more fun when you're here, and Mommy is happier too." Maya felt her cheeks flush. It was true. She was happier when Graham was around. There was something about his presence that made the house feel more complete. "Daisy, finish your homework," Maya said softly. Graham helped with a few more exercises. When Daisy finished and ran to get her toys, Graham remained seated, looking thoughtfully at the girl's notebook. Maya approached, pouring him some coffee. "What are you thinking about?" Maya asked, sitting down beside him. Graham was quiet for a moment. Then, without looking up from the notebook, he said, "Emily was learning to add when she got sick. She loved the problems with pictures, ice creams, flowers, animals." Maya felt her chest tighten. It was the first time Graham had mentioned Emily spontaneously since that night. "Daisy likes the pictures too," Maya said softly. "I know, were very similar." Graham looked up at Maya. "Sometimes, when I'm helping Daisy, I think about what it would have been like to help Emily with the same things." His voice held no sadness, just a gentle melancholy. "Emily would have loved to meet Daisy," Maya said. "She would have," Graham agreed, smiling. "They would have been great friends." Just then, Daisy ran back in, carrying a doll and some books. "Graham, do you want to play school with me? I'm the teacher." "Of course." Graham stood up immediately. "But I'm a very naughty student." Daisy burst out laughing. "That's okay, I'll teach you how to behave." Maya watched the two of them settle on the living room rug, Daisy organizing her materials with comical seriousness, while Graham sat on the floor. "All right, mister." "Graham," Daisy said in an authoritative voice, "today we are going to learn about unicorns." "Unicorns are a very important subject," Graham replied with complete seriousness. There was something touching in seeing Graham completely surrender to Daisy's fantasy, asking questions about unicorns as if it were the most natural thing in the world. After an hour of a class, Daisy decided she wanted to draw. Graham joined her at the table, each with their own paper and colored pencils. "What are you going to draw?" Daisy asked. "I'm going to draw a family," Graham said. "What kind of family?" "A happy family." Maya glanced discreetly at Graham's drawing. He had drawn 3 figures holding hands. Above them, a smiling sun and fluffy clouds. "How beautiful," Daisy exclaimed. "It's just like mine." Maya saw that Daisy had also drawn 3 figures, but her version included a house with heart-shaped windows. "Do you know what our drawings have in common?" Graham asked. "What?" "All 3 people are smiling." "That's because they're happy," Daisy explained. "Happy families always smile." Graham looked at Maya. Their eyes met, and there was something in that look that made her heart race. "Daisy," Graham said softly, "can I tell you a secret?" "Yes." Daisy perked up. Graham leaned closer to her. "Everything I couldn't give to my daughter, so I want to give to you." Daisy tilted her head, not fully understanding, but sensing they were important words. "What kind of things?" "Help with homework, bedtime stories, hugs when you're sad, being here when you need me." Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. She could see the emotion on Graham's face, the absolute sincerity. "And you want to give those things to me?" Daisy asked. "If you want to receive them." "I do." Daisy smiled radiantly. "And can I give you things too?" "What kind of things?" "Drawings and hugs, and I can share my toys, and I can teach you about unicorns." Graham laughed, a genuine laugh. "It would be an honor to learn about unicorns from you." Then Graham turned to Maya, who was still near the sink. "And you too," he said, looking directly into her eyes, "are the family I didn't know I could still have." The words hung in the air. Maya felt as if time had stopped, as if that moment would be crystallized forever. She didn't know what to say. There were no words to express what she felt. Gratitude, love, relief, hope, all mixed into an emotion so intense it left her speechless. Instead of trying to find words, Maya simply walked to the table. She placed one hand on Graham's shoulder, gentle but firm, and the other on Daisy's hair. She just stood there. And that was enough. Graham understood. Daisy understood. They didn't need grand declarations. Maya's presence, her hand on his shoulder, it said everything. From that afternoon on, something definitively changed. Graham was no longer an occasional visitor. He became part of the daily routine, part of the structure that supported this small family. The following mornings, Maya would wake up to the sound of Graham in the kitchen, making coffee and packing Daisy's lunch. He had memorized how she liked her coffee, strong, with just 1 spoonful of sugar. "Good morning," Maya would say as she came down, already dressed for work. "Good morning," Graham would reply, handing her the steaming cup. "Daisy has already showered and is getting dressed." It was surprising how natural this became, as if Graham had always been part of the rushed mornings, the little crises when Daisy couldn't find her shoe. He took Daisy to school every morning, developing their own rituals. Daisy always chose a song to play in the car, and Graham would pretend he didn't know the lyrics to make her laugh. On the way back, he would tell Maya about their little adventures, how Daisy had seen a funny dog, or made up a story about the clouds. In the afternoon, Maya often found Graham and Daisy in the kitchen preparing dinner together. Graham had become an expert in recipes Daisy could help with: simple pastas, colorful salads, easy desserts. "Mommy, look what I made," Daisy would always announce, presenting a dish like a work of art. "It looks beautiful, sweetie," Maya would reply sincerely. It didn't matter if the salad was messy or if there was flour everywhere. What mattered was Daisy's smile and Graham's infinite patience. On weekends, Graham would show up with flowers, never expensive arrangements, but small, simple bouquets, white daisies, yellow tulips, sometimes branches from a flowering tree. "To brighten up the house," he would say. But Maya knew it was another way for Graham to say he cared, that he thought of them even when he wasn't there. He also started helping with the bills, not taking over Maya's responsibilities, but offering support. When the electricity bill came in high, he simply paid it without a fuss. When Daisy needed new shoes, he showed up with a discreet bag. Maya resisted at first, but Graham had learned how to offer help while preserving her dignity. "It's not charity," he would always say. "It's family taking care of family." And it was true. At some point, they had become a family, not on paper, but in all the ways that mattered. Graham hadn't saved Maya and Daisy. They didn't need saving. They were strong, resilient, capable. What he had done was something more subtle. He had added to them. He had added his presence, his care, his love to the life they had already built. Maya realized this one Thursday evening when the three of them were on the couch. Daisy had fallen asleep between them, her head on Maya's lap and her feet stretched out to Graham. It was a completely ordinary scene, but Maya looked around at the tidy but lived-in room, the flowers on the table, Daisy's drawings on the fridge, and realized that this was happiness. Not the dramatic happiness of movies, but the quiet happiness of everyday life. The happiness of knowing there was someone to share responsibilities with, to celebrate victories, to be present in both the important and the ordinary moments. Graham had found a way to honor Emily, not by trying to replace her, but by allowing love to expand. And Maya had learned that accepting love didn't diminish her independence, it strengthened it. That night, when Graham got up to leave, Maya walked him to the door. "Graham," she said, taking his hand. "Yes?" "Thank you. For adding, not for saving." He smiled, gently squeezing her hand. "Thank you for letting me add." When the door closed, Maya stood there for a moment, smiling. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't worried about tomorrow. She knew that, no matter what came, she wouldn't face it alone. They had become, without ceremony or official declaration, exactly what Graham had said: a family that chose to form, to care for each other, to love each other. And that, Maya realized, was the most beautiful kind of family there was. Summer was coming to an end when Graham brought up the proposal that would once again change Maya and Daisy's life. It was a Saturday morning, and they were having breakfast when he mentioned, almost casually, that he had visited a few schools the previous week. "Schools?" Maya asked, pausing with her cup halfway to her lips. "Fair for Daisy," Graham explained, looking at the girl who was focused on making drawings in her cereal. "I know she's doing well at her current school, but I thought maybe—" "Graham," Maya interrupted, her voice carrying a gentle warning tone. He understood immediately. It was that fine line they were still navigating between care and interference. "Sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to decide anything. I just saw some options and thought you might want to take a look." Maya studied him for a moment. In the past few months, she had learned to distinguish between Graham's gestures that came from control and those that came from genuine love. "What kind of schools?" she asked, more softly. "There's one in particular," Graham said. his spirits lifting. St. Mary's Elementary. It's 15 minutes from home. Has a great art program, smaller classes, and... He hesitated. And I'd like to pay for it. Maya sighed. Graham, I know, but listen. It's not about you not being able to afford it. It's about Daisy having the best opportunities possible. Can I see the new school? Daisy interrupted, finally paying attention. Maya looked at her daughter, then at Graham. There was an expectation in both of their eyes. Can we at least visit? Graham asked gently. 2 weeks later, Maya found herself walking through the halls of St. Mary's Elementary School, watching Daisy run ahead, fascinated by everything. The library with tall shelves, the art room with colorful easels, the playground with new equipment. What do you think, Princess? Maya asked when they finished the tour. It's beautiful, Daisy answered without hesitation. And the teacher said they have music class too. Maya looked at Graham, who was watching Daisy with that smile she had come to recognize, the smile of someone who wanted to give a child the world. All right, Maya said finally. Let's try it. Daisy's first day at St. Mary's was on a rainy Monday in September. Maya had taken the morning off work, and Graham was there too. The three of them walked to the classroom together, Daisy skipping with her new backpack. Are you going to be okay? Maya asked, crouching down. I will be, Mommy. I'm brave, remember? I remember. Maya smiled, fixing Daisy's hair. Actually, Graham interrupted gently, if you don't mind, I'd like to pick her up today. I want to hear how it went. Maya nodded, realizing how naturally Graham had become a part of all the important moments. At 3 o'clock, Graham was waiting at the gate with other parents. When Daisy came running towards him, her face lit up. He felt a wave of relief and joy. Graham! Graham! She shouted, throwing herself into his arms. It was amazing. My teacher is so nice, and I made a friend named Sophie. Graham picked her up, laughing at her excitement. Tell me all about it on the way home. They walked slowly to the car, Daisy chattering about every detail, the snack, the huge library, how she had helped a boy who was crying. You're very kind, Graham said, opening the car door. And Mummy always says kindness is free, so we can give it away as much as we want. Graham smiled, thinking about how Maya had raised such a wise little girl. On the way home, they stopped at a traffic light, and Daisy was quiet for a moment. Then, suddenly, she turned to Graham. Graham. Yes. She looked at him with that absolute sincerity that only children possess. I really like you. I wish you could be my dad. The world stopped. Graham felt as if all the air had been knocked out of his lungs. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He couldn't breathe, couldn't process the devastating simplicity of those words. For a moment, he was transported back in time. He saw Emily saying, Daddy, for the first time. He saw Emily asking if he would always be her dad. He saw Emily in the hospital whispering, I love you, Daddy, for the last time. And now there was Daisy, offering him something he thought he would never have again, the chance to be a father again. Graham, Daisy said, worried by his silence. Are you okay? He looked at her through the mirror and saw that his own eyes were filled with tears. It was the most beautiful sentence he had ever heard, and also the most painful, because it meant Daisy saw him as a father. It meant she trusted him, that she loved him in a way he didn't know if he deserved. And at the same time, it meant she was missing something that he couldn't just give, not without it changing everything. Graham couldn't answer with words. Instead, when they got home, he got out of the car, opened Daisy's door, and simply held her hand, tightly and affectionately, like a father would. I really like you too, he said finally, his voice hoarse. When they reached the apartment, Maya was waiting, eager to hear about the first day, but the moment she saw Graham's expression, she knew something had happened. How was it? She asked, picking Daisy up. It was wonderful, Mommy. I'll tell you all about it after a snack. Daisy ran to the bathroom, and Maya turned to Graham, who was standing in the doorway, still processing. "What happened?" she asked softly. Graham looked at her, and Maya saw all the emotion in his eyes. She said. He paused, running a hand through his hair. "In the car she said she really liked me, and that she wished I could be her dad." Maya felt her heart stop. She glanced towards the bathroom, where they could hear Daisy humming, then looked back at Graham. She said nothing. There were no words that could capture the beauty and pain of Daisy's innocent observation. Instead, Maya simply walked over to Graham and placed her hand on his chest, over his heart, and she stood there, in silence, letting him know that she understood. Graham covered Maya's hand with his own, and they stood like that for a long moment, united in the understanding that their lives had once again changed. The weeks that followed passed in a quiet routine. Graham continued to be a part of their daily lives, but there was a new layer of meaning to every interaction. One Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after the first day of school, the three of them were in the kitchen after dinner. It was a completely ordinary scene, Graham drying the dishes while Maya folded the dish towels, Daisy sitting at the table coloring and softly singing a song from school. There was nothing special about that moment. There were no dramatic declarations or grand promises. There was just the three of them, moving around the small kitchen with a natural synchronicity. There was just Daisy's soft singing, the sound of dishes being put away, the smell of detergent and a shared dinner, and there was the silent certainty that they wanted to try. Together, Maya stopped folding the towels and looked at Graham, who was wiping a pot. Daisy continued to sing, oblivious to the moment unfolding. "Graham," Maya said softly. He turned to her, and their eyes met. There was an unasked question in the air. "We don't know what we're doing," Maya said finally, her voice carrying all the honesty she could muster. "But we want to do it together." Graham put the pot in the cabinet and turned fully to face her. There was a moment of silence, and then he smiled, not the cautious smile of the first few months, but a smile full of hope. "Then let's do it," he replied. Daisy looked up, sensing that something important had happened. "Do what?" she asked. Maya and Graham looked at each other, and then Maya moved to the table, sitting next to her daughter. "We're going to be a family, sweetie," she said simply. "But aren't we already a family?" Daisy asked, confused. "We are," Graham said, joining them. "But now we're going to be a family on purpose." Daisy thought about it, then nodded as if it made perfect sense. "Okay," she said, going back to her drawing. "Can I draw us being a family on purpose?" Maya and Graham laughed, and Maya felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. "Yes, you can, princess." That night, after Daisy went to sleep, Maya and Graham sat on the balcony, each with a cup of tea. "Are you sure?" Graham asked. "I'm sure," Maya replied without hesitation. "Are you?" "I'm scared," Graham admitted. But I'm sure. What are you afraid of?" "Of not being good enough, of not being able to replace what you've lost." Maya turned to look at him. "Graham, we haven't lost anything. We never had a father for Daisy. You're not replacing anyone. You're being the first." Graham felt something expand inside his chest. He had spent so much time thinking about replacement, about second chances. But Maya was right. He wasn't replacing anyone in Daisy's life. He was being the first father she had ever known. "And Emily?" he asked softly. "Emily will always be your daughter," Maya said with conviction. "Nothing will change that, but a heart has room for more than one person. Love doesn't diminish when it expands." Graham nodded, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced since Emily's death. "So let's try," he said. "Let's try," Maya agreed. And so, without ceremony or fanfare, without legal documents or official declarations, they became a family. A family built not on blood ties, but on time, pain, listening, and staying. A family that had chosen to form day after day, decision after decision, moment after moment. A family that had learned that the truest love is built on small, everyday actions, on kind words, on the willingness to stay when it would be easier to leave. A family that knew they wouldn't always know what they were doing, but was certain they wanted to do it together. And maybe, in the end, that was all any family really needed. The will to try together one day at a time.